Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
Right, okay, I thought we'd start with Love, Death and Robots because I've just watched a few of them.
We're just getting that out of the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's quite a lot to get into here. Have you watched all of it?
Yeah, well, we had a week away, so we were holed up in a little farmhouse cottage which had Netflix. So in between sort of bouts in the hot tub and looking at alpacas, we binged all of this.
Well, it's quite easy. I mean, some of the episodes are like 6 minutes long.
Yeah, they are. I don't think any of them are longer than 12 or 10. Some of them feel a bit longer, some are quite short. But yeah, no. Overall, I quite enjoyed it. Some of them were really weird. But the diversity in styles and everything, some of it was a little bit jarring. And then you kind of get into it again. But yeah, I've got a few favourites.
Sorry, just to butt in quickly. No. This is a anthology animated series that's been set up by Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool and one David Fincher, who you may have heard of. They're all by different creators, different animation styles. Some of them look almost like films, slight uncanny valley, and some are really stylized, and some are a little bit silly.
It's been getting a bit of a kick in, though, review-wise online, in general, because of its, should we say, throwaway ethos towards, what's it called? Towards sort of just ethos and methodologies and stuff, and the way that it advances stories. But I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just looking at them as pieces of animation and whatever story they had to tell.
They're a little on the crude side. There's lots of choice language, lots of nudity.
Yeah. It should have been called the Sex and Violence Animation Festival.
Kind of. So they're kind of, nothing's really off limits in this. It's very risque. They've let these creators kind of just go completely off the chain and do whatever they want. But yeah, some of them work better than others. But I don't know. I mean, if you've got the same running order as me,
I think so.
The last one I saw was called Shapeshifters.
Okay, yeah, the Afghanistan sort of,
the werewolf one.
Yep.
Yeah, which is brilliant and brutal.
Loved it. I mean, we both loved that. I thought it worked really well as a short film because you could see that being a feature-length film that had been condensed. In just the way that the story was, because you wanted to know more about them growing up together, and you could almost see it being a story where they've grew up together, joined the military, gone through the ranks, and what we were seeing was like the last kind of part of the film. That's what it felt like.
I mean, that one felt to me like it could be the intro cinematic to a video game.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, where you go off and you're a werewolf, but you're going around normal life sort of thing. I'd play that.
Ex-soldier, yeah, definitely.
And plenty of them are like that. I really liked, there's one called Beyond the Aquila Rift.
Yes, that was amazing.
Yeah, where he goes, they go into hyperspace, come out and meets an old flame. They get it on and,
it's
things
not
aren't
quite
what they seem.
Expect. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a really interesting one about yogurt, which I thought was just
that was balmy.
Yeah, sentient yogurt.
What did you think of the? Did you see the one where the archaeologist team with the mercenaries, and they uncover the bloodsucker?
Oh yeah. That one,
Sucker of Souls.
That's it.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure whether you had it in exactly the same order. Because if you started in the last one, I assume then you had the same sort of Yeah, so I know where you're up to. But yeah, there's the fact that was Dracula, and I thought this almost felt like a Castlevania story, but set now.
Yeah, I liked how sort of gun-toting they were,
It was
and
funny.
just like
He was a bit
Suck
Duke,
on
wasn't he,
it!
from Predator? He was a bit
Yeah.
like...
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
with Colonel
absolutely.
Kentucky, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're good. I don't want to go into too much detail because we'll just tell you the story. And half the joy of this is the kind of box of chocolates nature of it, where you just let the next one go on and you've got no idea what you're about to watch.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that it's probably vaguely sci-fi and has some boobs in it.
Yeah, being Netflix.
Yeah, I think if anyone remembers 2000 AD, the comic, they used to have a ongoing sort of anthology series on that called Future Shocks, and each one of these kind of feels like one of those where it's got a beginning, middle, and end. It's a self-contained little story that requires minimal investment, but the presentation of each episode is kind of so sort of lush, that you just can't help but get entranced by it. It's the kind of thing that I think I might, if I ever have another party around here again, I'll just have that on while I'm playing music.
Maybe.
It's just
Depends
visual.
on the party.
Yeah, well, it's just like a cool sort of thing to have on. Like, it's a bit sort of cyberpunk sort of thing.
It reminded me a bit like heavy metal as well. That weird animated sort of thing.
Yeah,
where
I
you
think
didn't quite
that's
know what was going on in some cases, but you just were glued to it because you're wondering, well, and then sometimes the twists happen and you're like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think those two were trying to get a heavy metal film off the ground, but so this is what we've got instead.
Okay. Well, before we move on, just two of my favourites from it were, funny enough, Suits, the ones with the farmers.
Oh, yeah.
That to me felt like an off-world Firefly story.
Yeah,
it really
and it
had a kind of beyond the rift sort of.
Yeah, and the animation style kind of reminded me a little of Spider-Verse.
Yes, exactly. I was saying to Suze, that's exactly how it is. I think she might want to watch that now. And the other one was Lucky 13.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
no, I haven't seen that one.
I quite enjoyed that, but let me know what you think for a future episode or a message. But anyway,
I mean, I was trying to get to these, and they're not hard once you start to, that you always can find the time to watch one of these, because they're not long. I'm going to probably watch the rest of it this week. I would imagine. I think the other thing we've both seen is Umbrella Academy. I know it was a little while ago now, but I just wanted to mention it.
I think it's still quite relevant because it's been probably about a month, which isn't really that long in this grand scheme of things.
I guess not. So this is a 10-part Netflix show based on the graphic novel by matey from
My Chemical Romance.
Gerard Way.
Yep.
And so I think he sings a theme tune as well.
Does he? Oh.
Now, one of the songs on the soundtrack I think he recorded especially for this, because my MCR are kind of a bit out of action these days. But yeah, so anyway, this basically revolves around a bunch of misfits who are kind of bought by this mad professor chap. The kind of setup is that suddenly all these women in the world suddenly become pregnant and give birth on the same day. And so all of these kids have different powers. And so this guy buys all these, but he trains them up to use their powers for the good, the greater good, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, something.
It's not as black and white. And they're all... The thing about this is that they're all superheroes, but they've all got real problems because of the manner in which they were brought up. And so some of their abilities or conditions are quite bizarre. We've got a guy trapped in a 12-year-old's body who travels through time and is actually 80 years old or something like that.
He was like 50, It was,
50.
But he acts it. His acting is really good.
Yeah.
It's just his
brilliant.
eyebrow mannerisms and just everything. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. We've got a girl who can plant suggestions in people's mind. A guy who's like a bit of a Kung Fu Man, a kind of dude who's unfortunately got some kind of horrible gorilla-like growth situation going on. But yeah, they've all kind of come back together after going their separate ways because their father, in quotes, has died. And so they're sort of all joined together to kind of pick up the pieces. And one of them finds out that the world is going to end in like a few days' time.
Yeah.
So
Number 5, who has no name.
Yeah, that's right. So I quite enjoyed this. I found it a little bit mopey and a little bit emo, but I thought it came to a good conclusion at the end of the 10 episodes. I think again it suffers a little from that Netflix bloat, but I persevered with it.
I kind of found it to be the opposite. I didn't think it outstayed its welcome. I didn't think it. I think a lot of the episodes, even the ones where not much happened, someone was getting some sort of development, and I found myself, maybe it's just personal difference or preference, because normally I get tired of series. I still have not finished Punisher, so really? I'm not a fan of the Netflix bloat, as you say. But for some reason, I just found myself enjoying all of the episodes. It felt to me like X-Men done in the Watchmen universe.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout, actually.
It's very much like everyone's a bit down because the world is a bit shit, and the circumstances of their training, their upbringing, their life, and their subsequent pull back into that life is not great, which is kind of a weirdly realistic view on the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know, I just thought, and the two people that reminded me of the angels from Preacher, the two assassins, they had that really quirky relationship. I think that was Mary J. Blige, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I didn't think she was great, but I thought the guy was.
She was there for just a reason, wasn't she? She was just a catalyst to kind of, so that he could change. You had to see how horrible they were meant to be in 2D, so that then you kind of see him more as a character. Yeah. I guess.
I think there was definitely, I got a bit of a Dirk Gently vibe about the whole thing. Like the way that just the tone of it, the fact that it was quite dark but quite bright and colourful, and just had lots of cool ideas. And there were definitely like some standout moments throughout. It wasn't like there was just a big, a great pilot and then they dragged it out. So I mean, I'm probably being a little bit unfair, but I think it's just a taste thing, where you sit on the comic spectrum will determine how much you get out of this. Yeah. There's also a really cool like CGI monkey butler in this that I thought was very well done.
He was Caesar level, wasn't he? He's crazy.
Pogo was his name. Yeah.
He was Planet of the Apes almost level, I reckon, wasn't he? It was like not far off.
Yeah, no, it was incredibly well done. Like really, really well done. I think there are 2 more books that Gerard Way has written, but it's an ongoing series. He hasn't ended it. So I think we will probably see more of this.
Nice.
They definitely marketed it really hard with a Umbrella Academy themed wedding, I noticed somewhere on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
On the YouTube channel. So, that's Umbrella Academy. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I'm looking forward to more whenever it comes back, to be honest. The fact that I paused watching most other things and then watched all of that and then went back and still haven't finished certain other things, I guess I just enjoyed it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I watched all the episodes as many as I could each time, and it just felt like a continuous story. So maybe where some of the slower episodes kind of bled into others, because it was almost like in a film where you get the slight lull and then the action picks up again. Whereas, maybe that's how it felt to me. I don't know. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I'll watch more. I definitely enjoyed it. The reason it took me a long time to get round to Love, Death and Robots was because I was watching the Gervais show, Afterlife.
Okay.
Yeah, which I thought was really, really good, actually. Probably the best thing he's done since The Office, quite honestly. Yeah, this show basically is all about him. He's basically playing like a more miserable version of himself. But his wife dies of cancer, And so he basically is just the most miserable man in the world. He wants to kill himself and everyone around him. He's swearing at children. He's horrible to everyone at work. He just goes to see his dad, who's senile, who's asking where his wife is. He's just like, oh, for God's sake, she's dead, And he works at a local paper. He's got a really good supporting cast in this that you may have recognised from other things. Diane Morgan, who plays Philomena Clunk off of Charlie Brooker's Newswipe, the one who just goes and interviews people and annoys them. She's in it, basically playing a bit of a ditzy girl. David Bradley plays his dad, who you might remember from Game of Thrones and Harry Potter and stuff. And Paul Kay, who is also in Game of Thrones, he plays his shrink. Roisin Kanati, who's like a bit of a comedian in her own right. She plays this prostitute sex worker, as she corrects everyone. And yeah, he kind of ends up making friends with like the local tramp, doing smoking crack, doing all this kind of stuff. It's kind of presented in this quite sort of jolly, sort of sitcom-y way. But he's just gone really down the fucking abyss with it. And I found it quite refreshing for that. And there's definitely a message to it. Things start to sort of turn around by midway through the run. There's like 6 episodes. I finished it in a couple of days, to be honest. But I really thought that was good.
Nice.
Afterlife on Netflix, that is.
Okay.
Have you got anything else I can carry on?
Well, I'm not sure if we mentioned it. I was watching, I finished the 3rd season of Man in the High Castle.
Oh, yes. What did you make of that?
Wow. It kind of slowed down and then picked up again. It was really weird. It reminded me of the second series. Because the second series seemed to be going towards a massive crescendo, and then it kind of petered off for the final episode. Whereas this, it started off quite slower. I didn't quite know what was going on, and everything was up in the air, so it felt like it was settling down again. But then it just went bonkers. Almost Wolfenstein bonkers.
Yeah, when they go into the bunker and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. There was one bit that's kind of overshadowed it for me. And obviously it's been out for a while, so when they build the machine to make them travellers, it reminded me of an old 60s sci-fi film, The Time Tunnel.
Oh, right, okay.
And I had to go and Google it, and it looks so bloody similar. A weird elliptical sort of tunnel pattern with people with like standing in front, almost like the Starship Enterprise sort of layout with like panelled people standing in front of a big viewing sort of thing. And people would walk into this thing, and there would be lights going off, and there would be big explosions. And yeah, apparently people would be making parallels to it, but I immediately thought that upon seeing it.
Oh, okay. Cool. Good spot.
I don't know whether it's meant to be a joke, because it probably would be around the 60s or 50s, 60s that the Nazis were, because I think that's when it's set, isn't it? It's the...
Yeah.
But also you'll notice that everything in that film is 10 years ahead of it would have been, because Concorde was like 60s, 70s, but they've invented the technology about a decade quicker. So maybe that was kind of the in-joke, that they've invented the time tunnel or interdimensional portal, and it's 10 years earlier than the show would have been.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing is in the fiction of that show is that because it suggests that had the Nazis won the war, we might be more further ahead than we are now.
Yeah, well, because no one would be able to stop them or hold them back. So
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I found myself, I still enjoyed it. Kerry Takawa's performance as always always encapsulates me. I really enjoy him as an actor, and I always thought it was really nice that he was still doing work in there. And the whole Frank thing was a bit of a bittersweet conclusion.
Honestly, I thought...
What was the point of that?
I thought he died in season 2.
He did.
And then they brought him back, and it's like, why... They should have cut him loose, like, honestly, like, and then all it did was slow down the 3rd season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have brought him back. That was just That must have been some contractual bullshit or something.
It was really weird. And then, the whole idea, they could have done the whole thing of him being the painter that starts the revolution, because he's the source of the sunrise paintings that have started the whole thing. And the whole monk setting fire to himself is, I can't remember what protest. It was supposed to be like a Chinese protest where that happened, where Tibetan monks set fire to themselves in the street. It's kind of playing off actual historical events.
Well, that was Vietnam, but a similar thing, yeah. But, I think the reason they kept Frank around isn't he like the protagonist in the book? Perhaps.
Maybe, but...
I think that might be the reason for it. But, how many times... They're going to bring him back next season and kill him off again?
No, they can't
now. No, I suppose not.
Not unless it's in the future armory kind of way. Not intending spoilers, but good lord.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good show.
I just don't want to see it losing its way now, because it feels as though it's starting to.
Honestly, between season 2 and 3, there was like a 2-year gap.
Wow.
And that really was... I think it was that, or it was 1 and 2. I know there was like a really long gap between some of the seasons, and I think there's going to be like an almost 18-month gap between 3 and 4.
Oh, blow.
Which will be the final season they have announced. But yeah, I find that the ideas in that show are so big, but I just don't think enough happens over the course of a season.
It's focused more on the Smith family. It almost feels like they're the real story of it, because it's almost switched from the whole Juliana Crane and the whole revolution thing, and the insurgency and all that sort of stuff. It's almost like it's gone from that. They're just a function of the story, and it's all about how the Smith household is owning up to how the world is. It's almost like their eyes are opening because of all these things that are happening to their family and the things that they have to do. So now they find themselves trapped, and I'm wondering whether it's now the story's about them and what they're going to do. Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, he's brilliant in that role.
Yeah, it was Rufus Sewell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I think they've definitely grown the show in that direction on account of his owning and chewing the scenery so hard. He's excellent.
I think the one who plays his wife as well is really good. She's I can't remember her name, but but I just find that they really do kind of they are holding the show together, to be honest.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway,
speaking of holding the show together, I've been watching the latest Alan Partridge show on BBC. This time with Alan Partridge. In this, he's finally got back on telly, and he's on basically a show that really is a bit of a send up of the One show, in that it's all just about random shit. And he's brilliant. There's been a bit of a meme going on because in episode 3, they have guesting on the show an Alan impersonator, but
really?
he's Irish, and he's like, "Who the hell is that?" And it's become a little bit of a meme. And I might actually put the song at the end of this episode because it is hilarious. I don't know how steeped you are in the world of Alan. Have you watched much of it?
No, not really. I've caught bits of it back way back in the day.
Yeah,
but I never really. I think I watched more of his sort of random Saxondale character than I did of Alan Partridge.
Oh right, okay. But this is brilliant. It's not the original writers involved anymore. It's the guys that have been doing all the Mid-Morning Matters stuff that they did those on YouTube and stuff. But no, he's back and sort of it's just as cringy as ever. It's proper clever comedy. It's difficult to describe really. But if you're a fan of Alan, then he's on good form in this new show.
Cool.
The other thing I've caught up with was True Detective. I watched it just before I went away, finished up season 3,
nice.
Binged it all on Now TV. And I really like this season. Slow burn, as they always are, but this is much more in line with the original series. And also kind of ties into the first series in some unexpected ways. This has always been marketed as like another anthology show where, you know, they're independent stories that have very little bearing on one another. And this one takes place across 3 time periods. I think it's the 80s, the 90s and present day. So our main character, played by Mahershala Ali, he is like a quite hard-boiled detective type guy, and there is a missing children case. They find one of the children, another one of the children still missing. They're trying to track her down, and so the story sort of like skips round in time. He's going senile, so his memory is failing him, and so you get they really play with that in some interesting ways, where he's like recalling things, and you as the viewer see things that he can't remember. You know, it's really cool, really well done. Came to a very satisfying conclusion, I thought, and definitely on form. So I hope they continue making this. And I look forward to seeing how they manage to sort of, I don't know, kind of weave that yarn around different time periods and different characters and stuff. Stephen Dorff's the other character in it.
Oh, wow, I've not seen him much for a while.
No, I haven't either, and they age him up quite well, although he's cracking on 50 now, I think. Yeah, so, yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah, it's True Detective. Have you got anything else?
Nothing that I've jotted down. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head as well. If you've got another one, go ahead. I'm sort of trawling a little bit.
Okay, the other thing that I watched on Now TV while I had the subscription, I think I've carried it on actually though, because there's some stuff on there I want to see still, is Escape at Dannemora. And this is a 7-episode series, all of it directed by Ben Stiller, of all people. Well, you'll be more surprised when I tell you what it's about. But it's basically based on a true story of a prison break that really happened. The 2 prisoners are played by Benicio del Toro and Paul Dano, quite big names there, and they are assisted by this essentially prison slut played by Patricia Arquette, who they both kind of get into their confidence and into her pants, and she basically helps them out getting out of this place. So it's really cool the way they do it. There's a couple of really amazing like one shots where you follow them along the route that they escape, like through tunnels and pipes and things. And it's all must be done with some sort of virtual camera because it would be impossible to shoot otherwise. And yeah, it's really good. It's got an incredible soundtrack, and it's just absolute joy to watch. It's so well shot. And that's why I said it. I was surprised that Ben Stiller did it, because you don't think of him as like very cinematic, sort of. Award-winning director. I mean, he's made plenty of films, Tropic Thunder, and I think he did. What's the male model one?
A Zoolander.
Yeah, he directed those. But like, I just didn't expect. This has got like massive, wide shots of huge landscapes, and all the acting is brilliant. There's a brilliant cast. It's kind of tragic, really. I mean, it's a true story. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out how this all ends, but it's you really sort of get involved with it. And I totally binged the hell out of that. So that's Escape at Dannemora. It's had plenty of good reviews and things, so I'm just reiterating it for the sake of it, really.
Do you reckon all of these people that we've slagged off, like, well, you had Ben Affleck, who was like the butt of so many jokes, and then he did Argo, and everyone had to take him seriously. Then you had Ben Stiller, which is like, almost, some people have a reaction in the back of the throat, like coughing up a hairball, and now suddenly we've kind of have to notice him a bit more.
Yeah, well, I think people get pigeonholed too easily, and they end up doing a lot of that work because it's easy.
Yeah, true.
But then they get their bee in a bonnet. They get a bee in their bonnet about something, and eventually they're like, well, fuck it, I'll have to do it myself. And that's how it goes. But you'd expect he doesn't even show up in this, like he really was just, I am going to direct this.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing. So yeah, that's Escape at Dannemora. And the only other thing I wanted to mention really was The Expanse, because I haven't mentioned season 3 since I watched it all. Have you done it yet?
I haven't watched it yet, no. I've got an Amazon trial, so I need to get my house in gear.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you, Marcus.
Well, a mate of mine's been moving on to the audiobooks, and he says there's something else. If you thought the show was good, the original source material, apparently there's like 5 books or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
but I was really enjoying. I think it's because I've got less of a commute now, because I used to watch them on the train in, and they used to be on Netflix. But now they're on Amazon. I've got to catch them before the trial runs out. So I think. Well,
basically, have you watched any of it?
Yeah, I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Oh, right, okay. So
it's brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, so season...
the first one is a missing girl case, which leads to the station and the irradiation station, as I called it.
Yeah.
The second one it starts with the Mars recruits, and then sort of builds a perspective from their point of view, and then you get the whole thing that they can't take Earth's gravity and stuff like that, and you get to see more of the Belters, don't you, and stuff in both of them. And there's the whole start of the Earth-Mars tensions really kicking up near the end.
Well, the thing is, right, there's like a very big political thing, which I had a bit of trouble wrapping my head around completely in season 1 and 2. Season 1 covers the first book. Well, it's season 1 and the first half of season 2 covers the first book, from my understanding.
Okay.
And then the back half of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, or the first half of season 3, is book 2.
Oh wow.
And so you end up with this mad kind of finale right in the middle of season 3. And then, from what I understand, the back half of season 3 is book 3. And
okay.
Yeah, and so that is a bit more focused on a much smaller situation, but it really does feel like, it's like I've started the next season in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's because their pacing went a bit off, but I think they've corrected themselves now, and I think season 4 that they're making now is book 4. So, yeah, and I mean, I don't know why I'm getting so bothered about this, but anyway, just
because you've watched it all, so now you can. Whereas when you're enjoying it, you can kind of just. It's like, now I'm sitting here thinking I should have been watching that. What have I been doing?
Yeah, it's brilliant. What have you been doing? Watching
everything.
Yeah, I honestly, it's one of my favourite shows now, because those characters have cemented themselves so much in my mind and my heart that I could just watch them do anything now. Yeah, it's like watching it now. It's like watching Game of Thrones to me.
Yeah,
because I'm just so invested.
Yeah,
I just cannot wait. And there's also a lot of inspiration, I think, taken from the Mass Effect games.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? Yeah,
especially when you get to the end of season 3. And without saying too much.
La 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 la. I'm just going to politely take away the headphone. It's alright, you can still say it, I won't hear it.
This show can go...
You've got your chin stroking grin on, that's all I know.
I'm really excited because this show could go anywhere now.
Yeah, cool.
So that's all I'll say.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's just glorious.
I was gripped from the start, to be honest. The fact that it starts with a distress call and then someone just launches a nuke at a ship. And I was like, this is the first episode? And I was just like, Jesus, what the hell's going on? And from there, and then the whole, what was his name? God, the actor. Floppy hair. Private Eye. Ex-cop, yeah. Thomas Jane.
Thomas Jane.
Yeah, well, his character, and I was just like, oh, cool, he's kind of like the slightly ex-dodgy cop, disillusioned kind of thing, but just quickly warmed to him and just the way that he was, and it felt like Blade Runner and all of these other shows that I've grown up watching, and immediately you felt like you were welcomed into the world, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, more layers to it, and more layers and more layers.
Do you know what it was?
I love it.
Do you know what it was? I think for me, I was just worried. I was trepidatious that this show was just going to like either get cancelled, which it nearly did,
or collapse.
Basically not be able to pay off like in a satisfying way. So I think it was the first season was me just being a bit trepidatious, and I feel like now I don't really have any of those concerns because it's got Amazon money behind it now.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The first season was so long ago as well, and we were watching so many other things to try and invest your time into something which looked like it had a fair few episodes to it as well per season. It's a big commitment, isn't it?
It's just annoying because they're going to release season 4 and I'm just going to watch it all in one day. If they drop it all at once, which they probably will do. But I'm so happy that they're making it and that they've got the backing to carry on and probably do all of the books, which I think are ongoing. So this show could run. God knows. But yeah, I think that's enough. I'm happy to leave it there. Thanks for listening to the Not Watching Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Playing Podcast, where we talk about video games, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam and Co talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, bye!
Armoured cars and tanks and guns came to take away our sons, but every man should stand behind the men behind the wire. Come on, Simon! Armoured cars and tanks and guns came to take away our sons, but every man should stand behind the men behind the wire. Ah, that was grand, that. Yeah, that's mighty. Yeah. Double O fucking bollocks.
Oh my God, that was like an advert for the IRA. Who are we going to blame? Find out who booked them and sack her.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Star Trek and stuff in the next one, because
I haven't watched
still
any of it.
No, yeah, you're saving it. I've started watching them, and I'm leaving the next batch now. But I've really enjoyed this season, kind of, so far.
Cool.
Well, in a weird way. It's very Star Trek-y. But I don't know. I'd still of the mind. I mean, I'm, like I said before, I'm old school Trek, but with this series, I'm just loving whatever it's doing. I don't care about what it's tied to or not. If it feels like an Easter egg or whatever, or maybe linked to that, I kind of go, cool, it's a bit like that. But I'm not frothing at the mouth about anything, because it's a great series.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of it yet. I've just been stashing it up because there's just too many other things that I can binge. So I'm just like, when I run out of things to binge, I will watch that. And by the time that happens, they'll all be out.
I started watching The Good Place. Caught half the first episode of that. We've been watching show. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think the new series of that might start tonight or tomorrow on Channel 4.
Well, I'm just watching whatever's on Netflix.
Yeah, we're watching season 5 because that wasn't on there before.
Yeah, that came out a few weeks ago. I'm trying to get to it, but you know, this animated show, and then Gervais put this thing out,
you've been
and then
in America, and
the back half of season 5 of Arrested Development. I've just been, and Alan Partridge and Grand Tour,
and being weighed down with beads. It's all been kicking off.
Yeah, I move much slower now than before because I have all these beads dragging me down.
Awesome,
I put them away to record, but the beads go straight on afterwards as soon as I finish this.
Cool.
All right, mate, I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah, me too.